My gosh, we're back in the saddle again.
That we are.
So it looks like we've finally been introduced to most of our dramatis personae here.
We think. Maybe
well, at
there's
least
more.
we've been introduced to everyone at the Abbey.
Yeah.
It's not there might be other extant players, but these are the people we're meant to suspect.
Yep.
At least going by the soup's orders, right? So.
Soup.
They got me doing it. Let's hop right in here. Let's see. What? The dialogue history is empty. Thank you. I didn't know what to say. The woman who had come into the hagioscope so many times, who had seemed so interested in me and my way of life, had been hiding an entire function of my job from me? Why? It made no sense. The already foggy picture I had of Catherine with a C in my mind was losing definition. I suppose I could start by just asking the others about Catherine with a C.
Be careful. That could raise suspicions rather quickly.
Well, I'm taking over her old role, right? It would make sense to everyone if I asked about her, I think. I should know the size of the shoes I'm meant to fill.
As long as you're careful to frame it that way.
Man, I'm really like, it's really fascinating the ways that Hedwig is savvy and not savvy.
Mm-hmm.
I know we mentioned this last episode, but it really, like, I really love that kind of tension there where she's being incredibly well read. She's definitely got a couple of things under her belt, but just not involving herself with humans for other people for so long. Like, that's also like left a very gaping hole. It's such a strange like bam. Sometimes like bam, and then it's just like bam. You know what I mean?
I continually find it funny as we play through this that it's like, oh, I need to investigate a crime. What am I going to do? Who's the best person to investigate a crime? I know, someone incredibly naive who's been locked in a room for over a decade and knows nothing about the outside world. Yeah. That's going to help a lot.
I mean, yeah, but she also explained her reasoning.
Yeah, but it doesn't make it not funny.
It doesn't make it not funny. You're absolutely right. But again, I do think that definitely puts... Think about it this way. If the Mother Superior had literally anyone else she could have trusted,
mm-hmm.
she would have gone to them first.
Mm-hmm.
We had to be the last option. That means that, at least on some level, she suspects that literally anyone could be involved with it.
Yep.
Which doesn't help our case, but like it's pretty illuminating, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I just don't understand. Why would Catherine with a C withhold my letters? The Superior let out a heavy sigh and brought a hand to her temple. She looked as if she'd aged 5 years over the course of this conversation.
I don't know. The more I hear, the less I understand.
That's exactly how I feel.
I know this is the right thing to do, but I was not expecting things to get this tangled quite so quickly.
I will do my best to untangle things, Abbess. I tried my utmost to sound authoritative. Maybe I really was trying out new personalities. The Superior gave me a tired smile in response.
Bless you. Take a wander around the grounds and talk with some of the sisters. They should be taking most of the rest of the day for their work, but I'm sure they'll make time to chat.
I gave a little bow of my head and turned to leave through the large oaken door. I stepped out into the empty hallway. I had no idea where to start looking for people, but I realized now was as decent a time as any to explore the Abbey and get my bearings. Also, I feel like I should mention this before we get too deep. I remember last episode I also mentioned that like I really had to pick up the soundtrack for this.
Yeah.
So I went up and I looked at the soundtrack. It's got over 100 freaking tracks on it. It's my expectations for how long this game is have suddenly exploded. It's not on How Long to Beat, and there wasn't a completed playthrough of it on YouTube, so I had no idea how much of a commitment we were getting ourselves into beforehand. We're still gonna do it because this is awesome.
Oh yeah.
But holy crap, I have my expectations have been radically reframed. Truth be told, I had no idea how huge this place actually was when I was in my cell. I had a few diagrams of monasteries and cathedrals in my books, but those were just little lines on a page. Now that I was actually wandering around in an abbey myself, one that seemed to eschew the careful layouts I had read about at that, I find myself marveling at the tiniest things. Most of the stonework was quite old. I had noticed that some walls lining the path to the bath and kitchen were in disrepair. I didn't quite know how to describe it, but it wasn't just dilapidation. Some parts of this place just looked older, squared off, less detailed. The chapel, for instance, while certainly very tall inside, felt very simple. A big box, really. But as I walked around the grounds, I noticed that certain sections of the abbey were meticulously detailed. There were little flourishes on the corners of the stonework, bits and pieces that didn't seem to serve any particular function, but certainly caught the eye. And then I thought, maybe that was the function. I hadn't seen many other buildings before, but I could immediately spot the difference between parts of the monastery. I reached for a comparison that I could make. I connected it to books, of course. Some parts of the abbey felt like they had been built the way of the Old Testament had been translated. Functional, blunt, constructed out of the bare necessities to make their point immediately. In the story of Elisha I was relaying earlier, the distance between the bears tearing those children apart and Elisha arriving in Bethel is 2 lines or so. Other parts of the abbey were more majestic. Pretty. Perhaps there's a structural reason for the way things look, but the look itself is... I clicked ahead before I could... The look is what draws you in. You can gaze and ponder what it means rather than understanding its purpose immediately. Maybe it's just decorative. Maybe it's decorative and functional. Or perhaps the decoration is the function. It's long-winded and aesthetically interesting, like something Aquinas wrote. Romanesque versus Gothic? Well, yes, that was exactly what I was getting to. Also, that's the name of the track right now, Romanesque, I just noticed. I apologize for my rambling. I'm trying to illustrate how my mind was piecing my new world together after being locked in a room for years and years. I suppose I'm the Aquinas between the two of us, aren't I? Not in talent, by God, but certainly in method. That's all right. You could be Roman and I'll be Gothic. What does she mean by that? Hold on. Can we just... Romanesque versus Gothic.
Architectural styles.
Yeah. I wonder, and she was making a point about aesthetic value versus functional value, right? And she goes, I suppose I'm the Aquinas between the two of us, aren't I? Not by talent, but certainly in method.
I can't pull up examples for you because my Wi-Fi is fucked.
All right, well, that's a problem.
Wait, maybe if I disconnect.
What was Aquinas' deal? I never read any Aquinas. I don't know what his situation is, but
I forget.
Does that make us bad Phil students? I feel like that makes us bad Phil students.
I didn't take early modern philosophy.
Really?
So Aquinas never came up in any of my classes. I know there was a class where he came up, but not in any of mine.
Let me see what the quick rundown is.
The Romanesque style looked like so.
Oh, very kind of... I won't say plain, but...
And the Gothic style...
The Gothic style much more ornate,
like
right?
So. It had more pointy...
Very fucking ornate.
Frilly, ornate bits, but not as ornate as stuff that came up later in the Renaissance and...
Right. But the point she's making is that she's going to embellish her story, right? And make sure to get all the little bits of details in. Whereas the person who she's presumably talking this to only wants the facts of the matter, right? Yep. I think that must be what I'm still not quite certain what she means by the Aquinas comment. But hey, if you know, guess what? That's what that comment section's for.
I believe it to be about his writing style.
In method. So is she being kind of taking the long road then.
Yeah.
Kind
Something like that. I
yeah,
believe that's
making
what
sure to
she's
draw
saying
in.
there.
Yeah, like still going in the same direction, but taking the scenic route, as it were.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my guess.
I took a turn I hadn't made before down some stairs. I trod carefully, still embarrassed about my little adventure with Catherine with a K that morning. I realized that I was stepping into the undercroft, which meant the cellars must be nearby. I wandered through the croft until I heard voices echoing around. They sounded strained. I followed them until I spotted barrels. Lots and lots of barrels. I walked through the rows of casks in awe. This was a lot of wine. I could see 2 figures ahead of me.
Oh. Hello, Hedwig.
Hello, you two. Did Marta put you on cellar duty?
Oh, no. I just came down here to talk to Flora. I was on cellar duty.
Is everything all right?
Oh, everything is just fine. We were just talking about chess. I am very competitive and sometimes I just raise my voice, I suppose.
Sure. Are we buying that story?
No.
I don't think we're buying that story. So what is Adela's beef with Flora here then?
I don't know.
And Flora's also not wanting to break the thing here, so it's clearly something they want to keep silent as well.
Yeah. Are you good at chess, Hedwig?
I've never played, actually.
Of course. What a silly question for me to ask. Who would you have played against?
Yeah, that's right.
You can play chess against yourself. Where is the fun in that? You get to be alone, for starters. Bah. No. That is such a waste of time. There is no romance in that.
Romance?
The thrill of competition, the heat of battle. Chivalry requires spectatorship. To do battle not with swords, but with wits. Romance takes 2.
Wow, you certainly do get passionate about chess.
I can romance myself just fine. I do it all the time. Flora! Now you are just disrespecting the game.
I don't understand.
Well, anyway. Flora, I still demand a rematch. You will face me on the field of battle of the mind, and I will prove to you that your last victory was but a fluke. Fine, whatever, if it'll get you out of my face.
Were they actually just talking about chess?
Maybe.
Either that or they just used a convenient segue into something that they were talking about. Flora's going along with it just to, keep the conversation from being about whatever they were talking about.
Tonight, we duel.
Adela lifted up an imaginary sword, then twirled it and sheathed it at her side.
Okay, sure. Bye. Goodbye, my friends. If you're interested, Hedwig, I will teach you how to play one day. All you have to do is ask.
She gave me a smile and left down the long passage of barrels. Come to think of it, I might have an Alexander Neckham book that mentions
I don't care.
Right. I suppose that's something I could tell Adela sometime.
What do you want?
Nothing. Just making the rounds. Saying hello to everyone,
So this is what, your 3rd introduction?
Sorry. Flora huffed and leaned against the casks lined up along the back wall.
Look, I'm sure you're really nice or whatever, but I don't volunteer down here for the conversation, understand?
You like to work alone.
Finally, someone understands.
Well, I'll be working alone a lot too, I think. So do you have any advice?
Advice?
Yes.
Advice for working alone?
Certainly.
Well, for starters, you need to be by yourself.
All right.
And then once I'm by myself, I like to do my work. Why are you asking me for advice anyway? Aren't you like twice my age?
I'm barely a decade your senior, I'll have you know.
Close enough.
Marta had been right. I tried to change the subject to maintain composure. This certainly is a lot of wine.
Yes, as you can see, I have a lot of work to do.
One thing that Hedwig never picked up on is how to take social cues for when conversations are over.
Yeah. Alone.
Is the wine here good?
I wouldn't know. I haven't gotten to try any. This batch will be the first the Superior has allowed me to taste.
Oh, you must have a large vineyard nearby.
These aren't all ours.
Oh, really? Where are the other casks from?
Dunno.
Ah.
Some rich guy, probably. Maybe this is a good environment for wine storage.
Interesting. So it's not just their wine they're storing down there.
Good for bringing out the flavor or whatever.
If we're to take Flora's words at face value, then it may be like either like someone is storing them there or it's just they get more from somewhere else. Interesting. I see. Well, I shall leave you to it then.
Thank you.
It was nice chatting with you.
Yeah, nice meeting you for the third time.
I turned away to leave. I'd had just about enough of that conversation. I'd made it halfway back through the rows of barrels when I heard Flora call out to me.
Why did you want Catherine 2's job so bad?
Hedwig! Hedwig! Kayfabe! Kayfabe, Hedwig! I didn't.
Did we just skip a line of mine?
The line was really.
Really?
Yes. I promise. I turned to look at her, and she was eyeing me up and down. I tried to give her as defiant a stare as I could muster in return.
Weird way of showing it. Breaking a 20-year vow to take a dead woman's work.
I wanted to tell her about Catherine with a C's visits to my window. I wanted to tell her about how the Superior had practically forced me to do this. I wanted to tell her that I was trying to help heal the wound that was making her act this way towards me. But I didn't. I couldn't. If you want to put it that way.
Sure feels like that is the way it is. How I'm putting it has nothing to do with it.
So it must seem. And with that, I turned around again and left the Undercroft. I wandered around the halls for a bit, trying to gather my thoughts. Adela was certainly passionate about chess, but was that really what the conversation I had walked in on had been about? Every time I think I'm a little bit clever. Every time I think I'm just a little bit clever. Surely Adela had been here long enough to know that Flora didn't like being bothered. She had made that clear to me immediately after all. It must have been something more important than that. No, this wasn't going to work if I started looking for reasons to suspect everyone every time I encountered them. I was going to need to strike a careful balance between searching for the answers and letting them come to me slowly. I'd go mad otherwise. Well, more mad. I stepped onto the outside path that led past the kitchen. I walked past the rectory where we'd all met for luncheon. I followed the little path around the grounds. Eventually, I came to the side of the chapel. I stood back and gazed at the building, taking it all in. There was a pile of rubble next to the chapel, a blemish on an otherwise picturesque scene. Bits of splintered wood stuck out at odd angles, but they were rotted through. The stone itself was quite weathered as well. It looked perhaps as if an extension to the church had been planned, but forgotten. Suddenly, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed movement.
Oh, hello there.
Oh, Sister Margaret. I was just taking a stroll around the grounds.
That's a good way to pass the time. Lots of nooks and crannies to explore around here.
Yeah, it certainly seems like it. I find myself quite overwhelmed.
I think I might know most of the interesting passages and doors and whatnot around here. It's a little boggling. But honestly, I doubt anyone here knows every little secret. If you find anything interesting, let me know. We can compare notes.
I will. What's your favorite?
Haha, I don't think I know you well enough to share that just yet.
Oh,
Nothing against you. We can work up to my favorite. I can tell you my second favorite if you'd like.
Okay, go on then.
If you ever get hungry in the middle of the night, there's a secret way into the stores through the cellar.
Really? Where?
Now, where's the fun in that?
Fair enough, I suppose.
It'll mean more if you find it yourself. Exploring this place is very enriching. You'll have a great time figuring it out, I promise.
I'll keep that in mind. By the way, at luncheon.
I would like nothing more than to skip over whatever topic you were hoping to breach here. Ask me what my favorite psalm is, or if I play any instruments. Anything else.
Do you play any instruments?
I'm not too shabby at the lute, now that you mention it.
Wow.
That's funny because she's got the lute on the album art for the soundtrack cover.
She does.
It's canon.
I've never played any instruments. I imagine that's rather obvious, come to think of it.
You should try it. Catherine would have shoved one into your hands the minute you stepped out of your cell if she was still here, I'd wager.
Really? No?
That's more or less how it was for me when I got here. Hardly a minute after having my hair shorn, she was asking me all kinds of things. What I liked to do, what I wanted out of life. Nobody got past her without trying something new.
Sounds like she was, very inspirational.
She certainly had the stars in her eyes. May she rest in peace.
May she rest in peace.
Well, this has been as pleasant as it's been maudlin. I'll speak to you later, Hedwig.
Until next time, Margaret. She gave me a quick bow of the head and continued off down toward the path I had come from. We don't know Margaret well enough yet to know whether or not, because one thing that keeps playing in the back of my mind is that the soup warned everyone about trying to haze us.
Mm-hmm.
So every time someone's like, "Oh, you should try," or like, "Oh, here's a little bit of thing," I keep like, "Are they trying to get us to do something?" Like, is she trying to get us to go off on a wild goose chase to find a passage that doesn't exist?
Oh yeah.
Or is she just being like, "I super love secret passages. They're awesome," which is objectively true, by the way.
We need to get a secret passage added to our apartment.
Our apartment isn't big enough for secret passages.
We could fit a small one.
We don't own the building.
We could fit a small one.
No.
Yeah?
No. You take it up with our landlord then. How about? After taking another good look at the chapel, I looped around behind it. There I could see rows upon rows of bushes and hedges, flower beds and vegetables. There were vines crawling up the walls of the building surrounding the vast network of plants. This was Darcy's domain, then. In fact, I could see her and Eustace beside the door to what looked like a large shed, or some sort of hall. I picked up my pace. At the very least, these two would be nicer to me than Flora was. Or so I thought. Eustace looked slightly irritated when she noticed me. She stood up and brushed herself off as I approached. Hello. I just wanted to say thank you for the gate.
Now is not a great time.
What? Oh, is something wrong?
No, just... I'm busy.
I glanced at Darcy and I realized she was looking even more out there than usual. Is she all right?
Yes, she's all right. As long as I'm watching her anyway.
What is she, Darcy was pacing around in a small circle. Her head was tilted skyward and she looked blissful.
She's having a vision.
She's what?
rows of bookshelves. Rows and rows of bookshelves.
She's capitalized now.
Interesting, yeah. Rows and rows and rows of bookshelves.
Hold on.
Eustace dipped down to pick up a small ledger and a quill she'd been sitting with.
The font changes.
Okay, so...
Oh, I love this.
All right. Hit us.
Ooh, I gotta do a different voice. Let me think.
Can you do like a deep dramatic voice?
The reader chooses a book. It is a book the reader has not read before. The reader chooses a book and opens the book.
What's in the book, Darcy?
Ink lashes like flame, and they hurt the reader so. But the reader pays no mind. Readers read, and read the reader does, until the reader's eyes are burned, and every page is turned. Readers read, and read the reader does.
Yes, keep going. Stay with me, Darce.
What? How can you be so calm about this?
She's had this one before.
Readers read and others ask. We ask readers what they read. What if they've read what we need? Reading makes one wise indeed. Readers read and others ask, even if the flames do lash.
Eustace scribbled all of this down. She seemed perfectly collected. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. All of a sudden, Darcy stopped walking in her little circle. She began to wobble and tears started rolling down her cheeks. Her blissful smile was gone.
Oh, this is new. What do you see now, Darce? What's happening?
Fire.
Yes, flames, you said that already. Anything else?
Goat. Fire, goat. Fire, goat. Forgot. I forgot what I was talking about.
Just another one of your visions. I'd say that tincture was a success, though.
Never change, Darcy.
She's just out back here experimenting with psychedelic drugs, and Eustace is her trip sitter.
Oh, never change.
Oh, good. Was it a nice one? It's hard to tell.
She touched her face and looked slightly surprised by how damp her cheeks were.
Was I crying because I saw the face of God and it was beautiful? Or was I crying because it was bad?
We'll talk about it later, all right?
Darcy, how long have you been having visions for?
For a long time.
We really need to be going.
Yeah, I need to go sit down for a bit after having one of my vision tinctures, or everyone says I stay too odd. So bye, I'll talk to you when I'm less odd.
Eustace took Darcy by the arm and coaxed her back toward the main building of the abbey. I stood there stunned. I had of course read about mystics, but I'd never dreamed that I would meet one, let alone see one in the middle of having a vision. I must admit that I had not pictured Darcy as being quite so close to God as that. It was a little bit humbling. Then again, if Marjorie Kempe could be so gifted, then why couldn't Darcy?
Who is that? I'm not familiar with a mystic by that name.
Neither am I. Let's get out the old phonograph.
Wrote the Book of Marjorie Kemp, considered by some to be the first autobiography in the English language.
Oh. Well, that's just neat.
Detailing both her life and visions. That's interesting.
Awesome.
Oh, she was... She also wrote it despite being illiterate. She had to dictate the whole book. She had a scribe.
Oh, that's even more impressive.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Just because I can't write won't stop me from writing.
That's fucking badass.
It is.
I spent some time alone in the garden. Oh, I forgot to ask you, what years was she?
Good question.
Yeah, like, is that recent? Like, obviously, Hedwig had a copy in her library, but...
It was written in the late 1430s.
Okay, so it'd been about half a century. Okay.
Wait, when is this set again?
1480s?
Oh, okay, yeah. For some reason, I thought this was set in the 1430s, and I was like, that doesn't track. That book wouldn't have been written. But
I spent some time alone in the garden. I could see rows of carrots, juicy-looking squashes, and plump vegetables that I skipped by. Plump parsnips, actually, not a vegetable.
a parsnip's a vegetable, isn't it?
If it wants to be.
What else would it be?
Maybe this is a bad time to admit this, but I never learned what a parsnip is, and by this point in age, I feel like it's too late to ask.
Oh, they're root vegetables. My grandparents always had them at holiday dinners.
Thanks, I refuse to retain any of this.
Yeah,
Gotta
they
keep
would
the streak going.
cook them with, I think, brown sugar. They did like a sweet parsnip thing. I despise parsnips. I couldn't stand them. I would always try to eat them and get like a single bite in and go, bleh.
Well, that...
And to this day, I can't eat parsnips. I'm sure they're fine. I'm sure they're a good vegetable, but
Yeah,
I have a long-standing parsnip
fair enough.
disgust since childhood.
There were plenty of other things I didn't recognize as well. I realized just how limited my diet had been in my cell, and I salivated at the thought of trying some new food. The flower beds were quite beautiful, and a mix of pleasant smells filled the air. I took a little stroll through the flower bushes.
Parsnip.
I've never seen one of those before in my life.
Now
I
you
think
have.
you're making them up. They look like naked carrots.
They do.
There were all manner of colors and shapes that I couldn't identify. I stopped to smell a few, and they were all lovely. There was one awkward, spindly-looking bush at the end of one of the hedgerows that looked out of place. It was slightly skeletal. The leaves looked too big for the plant, and it drooped a little. As I got closer, I realized there were little berries on the ends of the flowers. Against all better judgment, I reached a hand out, curious to see what they tasted like.
Don't touch that.
Goodness! You made me jump.
Sorry. I wondered if you were still in the garden and came looking for you. I'm sure it's all very exciting, but don't go touching things willy-nilly.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was very rude of me. I apologize.
It's fine. Just don't touch that plant, whatever you do.
Is it poisonous?
Extremely.
Well, then why on earth is it here?
I'm no botanist, so I can't explain it properly, but the short of it is that it's useful in small doses.
How on earth could poison be useful?
Well, Moira says it can be used to make a good painkiller, for one thing.
Interesting. Did you see her eyes do a little dart there?
Yeah.
Moira says it can be used for a good painkiller.
It was Catherine 1 who begged Darcy to start tending it, though. Apparently, it's all the rage in Italy. You drop a little bit of the extract in your eyes to make them look bigger, I suppose.
So this is scopolamine?
How would you know that off the top of your... You are...
You don't know about botanical poisons off the top of your head?
Come and clean here. I don't. Clearly I missed that class.
Is it? I feel like that's the name of it.
Is that the plant that makes you anime-eyed?
Scopolamine is the chemical extract. Right, extracted from nightshades.
Nightshades.
Extracted from nightshades.
I see. Okay.
And dilates your pupils as a side effect. But also can make you hallucinate and also kills you because it's a deadly poison and a number of other things.
Awesome. You go, Nightshade.
Yeah. Fun fact, tomatoes are in the nightshade family. But tomatoes don't poison you. But that's part of why, like, did you ever hear the thing that Europeans didn't eat tomatoes for a long time because they thought they were poisonous?
I didn't, but now that I've got context for that, that seems sensible.
They weren't as wrong as we think in being worried about eating tomatoes. I'm also not sure how real historically that anecdote is, but like if it is real, it makes more sense.
Yeah, okay. It's one of those ones that take with a grain of salt. Look it up on Wikipedia later if you care to.
Yep.
All right, fair enough.
It makes them look bigger, I suppose. Shinier.
But that's absurd.
You won't get any argument from me, but that's why it's here.
Darcy really does a wonderful job with this garden.
She's brilliant. Darcy is our little Hildegard.
I was wondering if they were going to compare her to Hildegard of Bingen.
Okay. If you're gonna keep doing this, you're gonna need to explain.
Hildegard of Bingen is an extremely famous Christian mystic and abbess. I think she ran her abbey. She wrote a shit ton of books, had a bunch of visions about stuff, had the visions illustrated, was an early composer of sacred music, philosopher, medical writer, and practitioner. She was basically the complete Renaissance woman, except it wasn't the Renaissance yet. It was 1098. She was born 1179. She died.
Wow.
She was just
She
like
lived a full life too for that.
yeah. She was just like a brilliant fucking polymath who did everything.
Damn.
And, cool historical figure. I feel like, was she the one that I saw a movie about? I don't think so. I think it was a different one. Oh, she also invented her own language.
Of course, why not?
She needed a new language because the languages of Earth weren't good enough for mystical purposes. So she came up with lingua ignota.
I see. I wonder what the conlang folks think of stuff of that.
Oh yeah, she's like one of the first conlangers. They think she's awesome.
Well,
I love Hildegard of Bingen.
I'm sorry we keep stopping every couple sentences for context, but also I feel
It's
like
great.
it's
The context
great and
is good.
necessary. And because again, I'm not a very historically literate person, so a lot of this helps kind of get me in. Like, I basically know what tropes tell me about the era. So having these moments to kind of stop and get context really does like help me place me in the era and understand more about what we're to expect here.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
She's our little Hildegard von Bingen. Sorry, is that someone that you,
Oh, no, don't worry. I've read Hildegard.
That makes sense.
An expert with plants and a real visionary. Darcy's like her in several ways.
Yeah, that's right.
Is she, doing well after all of that?
She's fine. She tries to have them on purpose. She has all sorts of different concoctions that she's been tinkering with to try and enhance and understand her visions for years.
That's incredible. Also, maybe Eustace is putting it more charitably, but because the way she put it makes it seem like the visions came first and then Darcy's fascination with tinctures came second.
Yeah, it sure sounds like that.
If we're to believe the way she's putting it.
So I wonder if Darcy just suffers from psychosis or something naturally, and then was like, cool, I'm having visions. I want to understand them more. I'm going to use my botanical skills to do that.
All right.
I don't know.
See that. Maybe. And again, or she might just be, kind of putting it more charitably for Hedwig's sake, but that's incredible.
It certainly is interesting.
Did Darcy know Catherine with a C very well?
Catherine too, you mean? Yeah, she thought Darcy was a genius.
Aw, how nice.
Catherine too had a way of making everyone feel special. Sometimes to a fault, if you ask me. She encouraged everyone to try new things to see if they had any hidden talents.
That pudding you made for luncheon was very nice, by the way. Was that a...
Oh no, that recipe is all me. Well, all me and my books.
I see. Well, it was delicious nonetheless.
I'm glad. Anyway, my point is, Catherine too was someone who couldn't leave well enough alone. She had many admirable traits, right? I miss her dearly, but it's true.
I'm not sure that I follow.
Catherine couldn't leave well enough alone. Stares silently. Oh.
Oh, man. So, okay, so, I mean, I guess that hints enough that there was a reason.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously there had to be a reason, but like, it gives us kind of a little bit more of the shape of it, right? From what we know about Catherine, she was pretty gregarious, right? And like, if the interactions we had that she, again, I still feel like we made a leap there, but I'm just gonna put it behind me at this point and assume that's just what it is.
What?
The leap between Hedwig thinking that the person who she was looking forward to talking to was Catherine.
Mm.
I mean, it's probably true, and I'm just making a mountain out of a molehill, but whatever. But it does give us the shape of the motive, right? Or at least that Eustace seems to know, thinks that's what it might be. That it was about Catherine to kind of use that gregarity to maybe push on something she shouldn't have. Eustace stared at me pointedly from behind her large glasses.
Be careful, Hedwig.
With that, she turned on her heel and left the garden. Beads of cold sweat were building on my forehead. I felt knocked entirely off balance. I guess it's also a point in her favor that she did just stop us from, like, poisoning ourselves to death.
Yep.
So...
And also, she clearly knows what's going on and made it clear
that
she knows what's going on.
Right.
So I think I don't suspect Eustace. I think Eustace knows something, but I don't think
has
she
a reason
is
to
the
keep
killer.
quiet about it.
Or rather, knows something and doesn't think that looking into it will lead
do
anywhere
any good.
good. That it'll just get us killed.
Okay. Yeah, because this whole interaction, like, if she... Although, again, we don't really know how many people know what Hedwig's real deal is at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Moira could have figured it out. Flora could probably figure it out now. It's probably not a huge leap. Like, they're not idiots.
Mm.
It's probably not an impossible leap to make on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, it's probably likely. But regardless, she prevented us from dying, so it kind of puts me in the maybe we trust what she says column.
Yeah.
Yeah. I felt entirely knocked off balance. After a few moments of stunned silence, I staggered back through the flower beds toward the abbey. Where I sneezed very loudly. It was a little bit chilly outside now. It was getting later in the afternoon, and I presumed the dinner bell would be ringing at any moment. Eustace's words were still bouncing around in my head. I hoped that a meal might straighten me out the way luncheon had earlier in the day. As I walked through the cloister, I remembered what the superior had said about the sword being left as something of a monument to Catherine with a C. I stepped onto the cloister grass and walked up to the sword, somewhat apprehensively. Be careful, Hedwig. What had she meant? Did she know? The sword was nice and clean, indeed. It looked well weathered, but there was no blood upon the blade. I dared not touch it, but I could tell that the edge was still just decently sharp. Be careful, Hedwig. How many of them knew? If Eustace suspected that I was up to something, then surely she would tell the others. The secret might already be out there. I heard a rustle of wings above me. I jerked my head up to see. Cloaked in shadow, the barest glint of... Oh, it took me a moment to find them. Oh, God. Did you see them? It took me a moment.
See them.
I
see him.
You found him?
Yep.
I told you. It's just like, geez, all right. The very stark black and white, like not even any grayscale, if I'm... Right? I don't see any grayscale. This all looks like it's black and white and then with like some, I guess, not dithering, but...
You want to know why this is landing so hard for me?
Why
this is hitting the spot perfectly? Back when I found out about Twine and wanted to do Twine stuff, which didn't work because I'm A, bad at writing stories and fiction, and B, bad at video game development.
Sure.
But I had a number of specific ideas that I wanted to do. And one of them, I definitely wanted to do a thing that was set in an old like cathedral or monastery.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted it to use a bunch of flowery, archaic language.
Uh-huh.
And I wanted it to be like all old. And then a different thing I tried, I wanted to do graphics like this where I took real world photographs and compressed them down into like 2-bit color, just black and white, and made it all blown out, high contrast. And none of that worked. None of that worked at all because I'm not good at that. But this is someone who is really good at all these things and combined all those things that I wanted to see so much that I wanted to try to make it and couldn't. And they made it, and they made it work.
Well, I'm glad to hear that at least.
Yeah, I didn't realize that until this session of recording that I was like,
is this
holy shit.
one of those made for Vivian games?
They secretly made the game that I have been wanting to play.
I know
specifically this for ages.
I know the Discord has thrown around the term SK Core a couple of times. Is this what
This
Vivian
might
Core
be
looks
Vivian
like?
Core. Although, come to think of it, I think Vivian Core needs more maps.
That is true. That is the one element that I think is missing.
Most of my games have maps, and if there aren't maps, I make maps. And
I mean, you could easily make a map of this place. They're being very good about telling us which goes where, and you could. Nothing is stopping you from making a map of this.
I'm still sad about my alternate history Portugal map collection being gone.
Moving briskly along. Cloaked in shadow, the barest glint of eyes. They disappeared into the shadows as soon as I was sure that they were there. I scurried away from the sword, feeling a sudden rush of bravery. I started running towards the nearest staircase that might lead me to whoever had been watching me, and collided directly with Angela. I am so sorry.
There is to be no running in the halls. Did the superior not tell you that?
No, I really am sorry.
What are you in such a hurry for anyway?
Well, I was in the cloister and I thought I saw someone watching me, so I was, running to see who it was.
What on earth for?
To see... I don't know if they wanted to talk to me, perhaps?
Ah, of course. No one here seems to be able to resist your riveting conversation skills, I have noticed. What an exciting first day you've had. Has it been fun? Being paraded around like a daughter the Duke is desperate to marry off? Spare me. I can see right through your little act.
I don't...
I don't know. Well, I do. I know exactly why you've joined us all of a sudden. I'll take your silence as confirmation. You may have tricked the others, but I am no fool.
If that's the case, then why haven't you told them?
Because I do not care a whit what the others think. I just don't like meddlers, and I know a meddler when I see one. The superior may not care about how this place is run, but I do. I will not let her entrust this place to a complete outsider.
Aren't I more of a complete insider? Like, by definition? Oh.
Perhaps even the perfect insider. Title drop!
What?
That's the subtitle of Subete ga Efu ni Naru.
Oh.
Mystery novel that got an anime adaptation.
Well, now I know what that is. Was it good?
The anime I felt was mediocre.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like the books have a good reputation, so someday I need to just read the book.
Fair enough.
What?
I was at a total loss here. But at least now I could be honest with my confusion.
You think I'm to become the next superior? I am not even close to the most senior sister here.
As if tradition matters here. Why else would you have been let free from your cell? Why else would you be taking meetings alone with her? So Angela has no idea what's going on.
Either that or she's both trying to hint but also obfuscate and have plausible. Maybe that's too many layers. But interesting. So she thinks we're being groomed to be the new superior. Okay. I'm just learning to be the new chronicler.
Yes, the superior seems to think chroniclers make good superior material. Superial.
Oh, thank you. I didn't understand before. So wait, does that mean that Catherine with the C was in line?
Yeah, Catherine too was in
Is
line
the
to be
superior looking at trying to retire? She's awful concerned about the state of the abbey for someone who's trying to find her replacement.
I don't know. She is a fool, but a determined fool. I'll give her that.
She cares a lot about this place.
Clearly. Hence why she's set a mouse loose in the kitchen.
She stalked past me, turning her nose up. I stood there shaking with anger for a moment. I wheeled around as she reached the bottom of the stairs. Who killed Catherine? I know I shouldn't have asked so bluntly, but I felt confident enough in Angela's ignorance to barrel ahead.
James Foreman, a nasty little stable hand who had his eyes on her ever since he first started making deliveries to the abbey. She rejected his advances, so he hacked her head off with a sword he carried in his cart for protection on the road. It was brutal, random, and obscene, like most crimes are.
I cannot believe that.
You never met her. Why do you care?
It's my job to care.
Not yet it isn't.
I was fuming, but I did feel a little... Oh, we also got our name for this stable hand.
Yeah.
I think let's just look at that testimony one more time there, because that was the first actual description of the event we've ever had. And Angela doesn't seem like someone to she doesn't seem like she cares what other people think.
She said as much.
Yeah, exactly. So I have no reason to believe that she would filter or change the story for our benefit. This is probably what the party line is right now.
Mm-hmm.
James Foreman, nasty little stable hand who had his eyes on her ever since he first started making deliveries to the abbey. Okay, so...
He has a reason to be here regularly. The reason is deliveries.
Yep.
The deliveries also would have involved the letters, because we're getting letters delivered from town.
Yep. Stable hand. Is that someone who makes deliveries? I thought a stable hand would have been someone who worked around a stable, not necessarily one who was out making deliveries on their own. But.
Yeah, so I'd think, but probably he does multiple things. He doesn't make deliveries every day, I'm sure.
Okay.
He's probably just doing that as when it has to happen.
Pointed at Angela, rejected his advances. He hacked her head off with a sword, carried in his cart.
So there was a romance angle, allegedly.
Allegedly.
He was interested in Catherine.
Yep. And Catherine supposedly rejected those advances.
Which makes sense if she's gay like we think.
Yep. Had a sword carried in his cart for protection on the road. Okay. Interesting. I wonder if we'll need to learn anything about what types of swords people would own. I hope so. Because I assume the types of swords that are given to people of high station are different than one you just have hanging around, right? What else is coming to mind here? Maybe this interaction is why Catherine wasn't delivering the letters to us. Maybe there was something she knew in the prayers that she didn't want to reach us for some reason, or maybe it's just her being flippant and pissy, right? But I can't help but make that connection. Yeah. So I right now I believe that that's what Angela believes.
Yep.
And I don't know if that means that she's probably not in on the conspiracy, or if she knows enough to keep well enough alone. Even despite the fact that she says she's above, doesn't care what other people think of her, I can also imagine a scenario where she understands the workings of the monastery well enough to be like, okay. Or not that modest, the abbey, to be like, okay, this is the line. This isn't worth fighting about.
Mm.
But I'm willing, at least from the fact that she's told us this much, it seems unlikely, at least at first blush, that she would be the one who did it herself.
Yep.
At first blush. Again, like these are just our first reactions. So, regardless, let's move along. But I did feel a little twinge of satisfaction realizing that I'd thrown Angela off my real reason for being here. I knew she was wrong about Catherine with a C, though. There were too many strange things going on. Too much unsettling evidence to the contrary. Evidence like... Well... I didn't actually have any evidence, did I? I just had whispers. Whispers telling me that something was very, very wrong here. I had agreed with the superior out of a mixture of obedience and pity, but now I was itching to find the truth and rub Angela's stuck-up face in it. In all graces and accomplishments pertaining to arms and chivalry, it will be interesting to the youth of the present day to Greek emperor and his throne.
Oh, that's this. I couldn't read the caption, but I was looking at it and was like, that looks Byzantine. I bet that's Byzantine. And it was. It was Greek.
Supper that night was a lot more subdued than luncheon. We all gathered around the rectory table, but the conversation didn't spark the same way. People seemed worn out from the various tasks of the day. Small clusters of chatter broke out between the little groups of people across the table, but mostly people ate their meals in silence. I was content with this state of affairs, at least for the moment. My plate was laden with wonderful-looking food from Darcy's garden, as well as a generous piece of chicken breast. Darden. Darden? Superior, is it Darden?
It's unclear.
I wolfed it all down in silence, trying to avoid eye contact from Angela, who was seated next to the superior at the head of the table once again.
Sassoli's book on chess is supposed to be quite interesting.
My turn? Is it my turn? I think it's my turn. I got us.
Is that going to be an Italian name? Is it going to be like Chessolis?
Jacobus de Caesolis. I don't know. An Italian author of the most famous morality book on chess in the Middle Ages. There you go.
Interesting.
Morality book.
Chess is serious business.
Apparently.
So I have heard. Eustace, do we have a translated copy? In English or Castilian, I mean.
Castilian?
Yeah. Because she's Spanish. She was born in Spain.
Oh, right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Sorry, I took a moment for the gears to catch up.
I would have to check. I'll take a look and give it to you in the, give it to you later.
Okay. So either chess is code for something, or there's something else going on and the chess is incidental to it. But it seems like... How did Eustace phrase it just now? Give it to you in the... So in the part of the abbey?
Could be a time,
In
could
the
be a
morning.
place. It's not clear.
If it was something as... Oh, if it was a time, what time would be like in the middle of the night? In the... Interesting, but okay.
Could be an item it's physically located inside whatever the thing is.
Sure, okay.
I'll give it to you later.
Spectacular.
After supper was Vespers. You'll be glad to know that I didn't cough up any horrible black bile in the chapel this time. We chanted the evening prayers. It all felt very regimented. I forgot, like, the framing device, Hedwig, is supposed to be a little bit more jaded and a little bit more mad. Not as, like, kind of curious and naive as... Yeah. There was a certain peace to the proceedings. My head felt pleasantly empty and soft afterwards, free of the confusion and rage I'd been alternating between earlier. When the office of Vespers was concluded, people trickled out of the chapel one by one. Left to my own devices, I wasn't really sure what to do. I followed everyone out of the building into the cloister, but nobody turned to ask what I was doing, if I'd like to join them or anything of the sort. It felt like I had already ceased to be of any interest to the congregation. Invisible. I trailed behind everyone. Wasn't actually sure what I wanted. Did I want to be included? Would that make my job harder or easier? Would it make me feel better or worse? Now or when it came time to accuse one of them of the unthinkable. I looked across the cloister and stopped dead in my tracks. The sword was gone. I ran across the grass to check where it had stood. It had been right here. I had seen it. I had nearly touched it. The sword is gone. Hello? Hello? I called out, but everyone had dispersed already. I looked down at the grass and then, with a jolt, looked up at where I'd seen the mysterious figure earlier. They weren't there. I stared at the slight divot in the grass where the blade had been stuck into the earth for a little while. The superior, she had to be warned.
So now I'm trying. Is
Does
this
she think that? What is she reacting because she's like, oh, someone has a weapon now? Or is
probably?
She, okay.
But that's exactly what I was thinking. Is it that actually someone needs a weapon, or is there something about the sword that now this person realizes someone's looking into it and is like, nope.
Nope. Which would be interesting, because it would be interesting if because that would mean that there was something about the sword that would have been telling.
Yep. For example, what if the sword hadn't been sharp or something?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was no blood on it.
Yeah.
Right? For why? Because that's what we know about it, right? Is that
Yeah.
it allegedly was Mr. Foreman's, something he kept in his wagon for protection on the road. He's just going between the town and the abbey, though, right?
Yeah.
Is that far enough to need that kind of defense?
Sure.
All right.
People.
I know it's a bit
people
of a...
open carry to the supermarket here in the States. I can't judge.
Okay, all right. But Cohost, so if that is indeed someone removed it to prevent someone from getting clues, that tells us at least that there was a clue to be found.
Yeah.
Right? That the nature of the sword would tell us something. Superior! Mother Superior, The door yanked open suddenly.
Get in now. Are you quite mad? I will send for you when I'm prepared to talk. If you're seen coming in and out of my office at will...
I know, I'm sorry, but this is really important.
You're putting both of us at risk.
I apologize, but...
I'm making careful preparations so as not to rouse suspicions.
Someone's taken the sword! The Superior furrowed her brow. The sword! In the courtyard, it's gone! I saw it there this afternoon and now it's missing.
I know.
You... Huh?
I thought about what you'd said after luncheon about leaving a weapon lying around and decided you were completely correct. It was more than a little ghoulish. I told our sacrist to take care of it not long after you left.
Eustace?
Yes. She's in charge of all the relics and items of interest here, not just the books.
Right, because she was the one that's in charge of the storehouse.
The sacristy.
The sacristy, yeah. Well, what if she's the killer? She has a wicked blade now.
A sword that she could have gone and collected whenever she fancied, were that the case. Hedwig, leave the strategizing to me. There is nothing whatsoever suspicious about an abbess asking her sacrist to keep an object under her care. It makes absolutely no difference in the grand scheme of things if Eustace is involved or not. She would have access to the blade either way. Now, if the blade turns up missing or, God forbid, gets used again, she will be the first person to call on. Please trust that I do think about these matters carefully. I like to play at least a few moves ahead.
Moves ahead? What does that mean?
Chess terminology. Have you played chess before?
Right, and I'm just gonna check that one off the bingo card real quick.
All right, chessboard starting to spin up.
No.
I'll have Eustace loan you Chisolis's book on the subject. It's really very interesting.
I was well and bloody tired of hearing about chess, to tell you the truth.
Anyway, you should go. If anyone asks, I was checking up on how your first day went. How did your first day go?
I took a deep breath and raised my finger in the air, ready to let it all out again like I had at my previous meeting with the superior. However, I thought better of it in the end. Fine. All things considered. Fine.
Good. Good.
Angela doesn't trust you.
Now there's the shock of the century. Anything else?
No.
Very well then. I shall send for you when I am ready to speak on these matters again, and to take you to visit the accused.
Understood, Abbess.
Have a good night, Hedwig.
I left. I trudged up the stairs back to the dormitories. I pulled my robes a little bit tighter around myself. The wind was picking up outside. At the top of the stairs, I could see Eustace and Adela walking through the halls, holding torches and lighting the sconces on the walls near the entrance to the dorms, the library, and the Misericorde. I was somewhat surprised. Oh my, who's going to be awake to snuff all those out later?
We typically only do the ones up here. This hallway gets a bit of traffic at night. The dorms, the library, and so on.
Do not worry about fires, though. We put them out before we go to bed.
I nodded absent-mindedly and continued toward the dorms. I had a long day. The energy I had received from the bath had almost been entirely spent. I had no idea what the other nuns were planning to do with their night, but all I could think about was my bed. I swung open the door to my little room and plopped face first into the straw mattress. My head hit the pillow with a thunk. Oh, really? What now? I flung my pillow aside to reveal a book. It had no title or adornment on the cover. But when I opened it,
It's a Greek
was greeted
play!
by a lovely, illuminated title page.
It's Medea.
Medea, transcribed proudly by Catherine II of Lynbarrow Tor Abbey,
She gets to read the play.
for the enigmatic woman in the wall. May she find this most interesting and edifying, despite its pagan origins, with apologies to Hesidius and Euripides in kind. What's Hesidius? That's the one I don't recognize there.
Yeah, I have no idea who that is. Maybe that was a translator into Latin or
find out.
something. That would be my guess.
Oh,
Yeah, but if you,
Hosidius Geta, playwright of the 2nd century AD, author of a tragedy entitled Medea.
oh, okay.
There it is.
So another telling of the Medea story, I guess.
Yes.
Okay.
Also, let's talk about what this means. It means someone was in her room, right, and made the connection.
Yep.
It could be someone just looked open the book and saw that it was, described to the woman in the wall and put two and two together and like, oh, here, maybe Hedwig will want this. Or more likely, it's a message that I understood, like, it's if it's more of a directed message and rather than just coincidence, then it's really telling because they knew about Catherine's vow promise to give us a copy of this play.
Yeah.
Either someone stumbled upon it in her belongings, just like, oh, it's got, it probably Hedwig will want this, or someone knew exactly what was happening in those conversations, or Catherine spoke about it, and they're trying to taunt us. I began to weep first and then sob. Here it was. The play I had been promised all those weeks ago. I cradled it in my arms. I dared not turn past the title page yet. There was something that kept me glued to those words. Little words that had been written just for me. Catherine's handwriting was a little scratchier than mine, but it was full of character. I touched the page gently, running my finger across the page to feel the slight indents where the quill had pressed into the parchment. She hadn't broken her promise to me in the slightest. I thought back to that night she came to my window. How soon after that had she died? How long before Samhain?
I think so.
How long before Samhain had she planned to give me this? I knew from experience that transcribing anything was no simple task, even if play was much shorter than the Bible. Oh, what a strange mixture of elated and despair I felt. I had a special gift from Catherine, with a C, but I would never be able to share my thoughts on the story with her. I was left with precisely half of an experience, and I would never, ever live the other half of it in all of my days. It would have to do. Just knowing that Catherine with a C had made this filled me with joy. As I dried my tears, I wondered, who had brought this here for me? Nobody knew that I had spoken to Catherine with a C, surely, unless she had told someone while preparing this book. Did I have a secret ally? Someone carrying out Catherine with a C's last wish beyond the grave? Or perhaps Darcy had been right and I was about to meet a friendly spirit. It's weird that she's immediately jumped to this being a positive omen and not one that's incredibly threatening. Am I wrong to read it that way?
It would seem there would be more direct ways to deal with someone if you knew of their connection and wanted them to not.
I don't know, because this conveys that they have very personal and intimate knowledge of their conversations together.
Perhaps.
And also an understanding that this is what you're here to do, and I know that this is what you're here to do. Like they're like maybe it is just a nice little happy going. Someone saw it and was like, hey, yeah, here you go. But if it is indeed like a message, then it's very menacing in its implications. I fantasized for a few moments about reading Medea alongside some sort of transparent, flickering version of Catherine for a moment, but it was too sad to keep up for very long. I didn't even know what Catherine with a C looked like. And, well, ghosts don't exist, of course. I put my pillow back in its place and settled down. I couldn't read the play. Not just yet. The whole thing was just sinking in still. I clutched the book to my chest and drifted off to a much-needed sleep. What is Medea even about?
God,
That one I don't actually know. Hold on.
Was she the wife of Jason from the Argo? And something about their kids?
Daughter of King Aeetes of Colchis, a niece of Circe, granddaughter of the sun god Helios. Medea figures in the myth of Jason and the Argonauts, appearing in Hesiod's Theogony, but best known from Euripides' tragedy Medea and Apollonius of Rhodes' epic Argonautica. So there you go.
What happens in the Medea? What happens in the Medea? Because it's going to be important. We've got a specific
the Medea play. Yeah. Because if you have a single book that you keep referencing in your thing, it's probably thematically important, right? You're probably making a reason for it.
Okay, right. That's what it is.
So what happens?
So the shtick of it is that she's the wife of Jason, famous from the Argo, the Argonauts, and all that. She's a former princess and an important person.
Sure,
but not a Greek, not from Greece.
Okay.
And she finds herself losing her place in her family and society as Jason decides to leave her and to marry somebody else, the daughter of a Greek king, and go back to Greece. So Medea decides to get her revenge and to go ahead and kill everybody involved, including killing her own sons as revenge on Jason. Like, oh, I can't kill you, but I can kill the sons you had by me. And then...
Shit.
Yeah. And then it ends with her escaping to Athens and getting away with it.
Wow, people hate to see a girl boss winning.
It's good. I recommend reading Euripides and Sophocles if you haven't. The plays are actually quite gripping still. It's not like if you tried to read the Iliad or something and found it dull as hell. It's not like that.
Yeah, maybe I will. When it comes to reading plays, I'm not like I'm not super well read. I think like I've read like most of Stoppard's stuff, but that's about it. And only because someone introduced me to Stoppard when I was in high school and I got obsessed. But I mean, they're basically the same time period, right?
Anyway, I wonder if the Medea is thematic.
So the thematic bit would be then jilted lover takes revenge on their ex.
I don't know.
And
There's also the person getting away with it in the end.
yep.
There's also the killing of sons, the killing of children, one's own children.
Yep.
There's also betrayal, travel far away. There's a number of things that happen in it.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a bunch of themes starting to be brought in here.
Themed
That,
with a capital T.
Yeah, that we got to keep in mind because they're going to start to weave together for us soon.
You think so?
Yeah.
All right, let's keep going. I awoke with a start sometime later. We're going to be so slow getting through this, and I hope y'all are okay with that. I do think that the little pauses for context and stuff are very important. I felt hot and uncomfortable as I rose from my bed. I was too tired and overwhelmed earlier to think to remove my habit before drifting off. I carefully slotted the copy of Medea under my bedsheet and stepped out into the dormitory hall. Hello? Is everything all right out here? I spoke in a loud whisper, not wanting to wake anyone who may have also been trying to sleep. I got no response, however. I peered out into the second-floor hallway. The sconces were still lit, flickering somewhat in the wind. Up ahead, I could hear a door closing. People were still awake, it seemed. I sighed deeply. Was this the hazing the superior had mentioned this morning? Flora, is that you? Margaret? Catherine with a K? Wait, what had happened to get her out of her room?
She woke up hot and uncomfortable.
Hot and uncomfortable. So why does she think this is hazing?
It's the middle of the night and the torches are still going and people are still moving around, but no one's responded when she called out.
Yeah, but she could have just slept through that. How is that?
But she didn't. She woke up and now
Okay.
something's going on.
I could hear faint laughter coming from somewhere down the hall. Curious, I crept forward. I could definitely hear laughter and talking what sounded like a lute being strummed. Oh, are they in the Misericorde?
Oh, maybe.
As I walked down the hall, the sounds got closer. I realized they were coming from the door next to the library. The Misericorde,
You called it.
I called. I frowned. It seemed like there was a raucous party taking place behind the door. I was confused and a little hurt. I vaguely knew about the concept of the Misericorde from some of my reading. It was the room where the rules of St. Benedict were lifted, and oblates could partake freely in red meat and pork and other delights forbidden to us in the refectory on certain holidays. Only half the congregation was meant to be allowed in at any given time, and yet it sounded like a full-blown banquet was happening behind this door. And today was no holiday. I really wasn't a part of the group, was I? I'd half a mind to barge in, but I turned around startled. At the end of the hall, illuminated by sconces, was a tall figure holding a sword. A black goat stood next to them, held by a rope leash.
The goat from the vision.
The goat from, I was going to say, Darcy's vision involved a goat.
A goat and fire.
The goat and oh god.
Fire goat. Fire goat. Fire goat.
Is fire just the torches, or? I wanted to scream, but I felt paralyzed. The figure wore black robes. The figure was cloaked in what looked like a nun's habit, only longer. And without a white wimple or cowl. They stood taller than any woman I had ever seen. Slowly, the monster lifted their sword toward me, pointing with the blade. As it glinted in the fire, I realized they were wearing a large metal gauntlet. So it's taller. So they're taller than anyone else in the monastery. Interesting. It's not like there aren't ways to fake that, but that's a good data point.
Yeah.
If we see anyone unnaturally tall, I mean, it probably won't be that simple, but like it's still a...
How tall was Catherine?
Not taller than this person, according to Hedwig.
No, Hedwig's never seen Catherine.
Oh, Catherine with a C.
Yeah, Catherine's the only person
you
Hedwig hasn't seen. Sorry.
You gotta use the different...
1 and 2.
I took a step back, but as soon as I did, the apparition at the end of the hall had thrust the blade they held into the air. And with a rumbling rush of air, all the sconces in the hallway blew out. For a moment, everything was pitch black, Do you see where our location is?
Danger.
The figure's sword was suddenly wreathed in flame. I could see once more this creature and their pet were an even stranger sight, lit only by a flaming sword. In the red light of fire, their eyes glinted with an unholy sense of menace. Shadows danced through the hall as the mysterious figure slowly lowered their weapon again, bringing it to rest against the ground. After a moment, they dropped the leash they had been holding in their other hand and raised a finger to their shadowed lips. The goat stood still the same. Assured of my silence, the apparition lowered their hand to the sword's handle. I didn't dare move or make a sound. I was absolutely in their thrall. Now gripping it with both hands, they lifted the burning sword high into the air. Firelight flickered around the hall in an eerie pattern. And then they beheaded the goat in one swift motion. The fire was snuffed out, and I was plunged into the purest darkness. Well, that seems like a place to end a sode.
Yeah.
Oh,
Woo.
damn. So, I believe shit just got real, right? I'm already thinking, like, how do we explain this in medieval technology? Is this a hallucination? Is this something literally she was seeing?
Is it
this
hazing?
Somehow elaborate hazing? I'm not familiar with what would be possible in this era.
Yeah.
Probably more than we suspect, but like certainly not like every single trick in the book. So this will be interesting. Well, I mean, one thing will be to see, is the goat still there after all this is said and done, right? Anyway, thank you all for listening on to the series so far. We'll be back soon with the next episode. Again, please feel free to leave your comments in the section if this is your first time through and you want to not strategize. What's the word I'm looking for? Theorize along with us. Please feel free to do so. If you've already watched through and you need to leave a comment about that, just remember to use the Route 13 as usual. And we'll see you next time, everyone.
Peace.
Bye.
Smash that like, comment and subscribe.